If you haven't seen the previous two parts of this series, I'm making an attempt at a Persona 4 Golden Nuzlocke, which means I twist the rules of a Pokemon Hardcore Nuzlocke to fit the gameplay of Persona 4 Golden. And now I'm finished getting distracted, I'm back for part 3. The rules I'm abiding by in this video are: the game must be played on hard, 1 item per teammate per battle. Once a teammate reaches 0 HP, they are unable to be used. There's a level cap in place, which at the moment is 2 levels below the next dungeon end boss, to make a nice challenge and stay to the theme of hardcore Pokemon Nuzlockes, where a level cap is in place. You are only allowed to collect 1 persona per floor of a dungeon. Use of the Compendium is banned, and if the protagonist dies at any point, the run is over. For a more in-depth explanation of the rules, click the top right for the link to part 1 of the series where I go over the rules more, and then you can catch up on what's happened, and the strategies I've been using throughout the playthrough. As usual, there will be spoilers, so let's continue the challenge. My attempt at a Persona 4 Golden Nuzlocke last brought me to the Mitsuo boss fight, where I was confused about Mitsuo's affinity to physical, but thanks to some help from you guys, I got the info I needed. As it says, it seems that Mitsuo takes slightly less damage from physical attacks. Therefore, I decided to use the persona lower. I panic-fused after learning about the potential of Mitsuo having a resistance to physical, although... Anyway, moving on. Luckily, basing off its skills, it seems pretty good, so I decided to use it for the fight. I gave lower Agilao and Fire Boost, which makes for a great combo, especially at this point in the game. For Yosuke, due to the level cap being 43, I barely miss out on a really good passive ability, Wind Boost, which would give me some good extra damage output, but that'll have to wait till the next dungeon. Same sort of thing with Yukiko. Me and Yosuke have accessories that increase our damage for our preferred element, while Yukiko and Kanji have Vigor Fob, just so they can take more hits and Kanji can do more physical attacks. Even though damage is slightly reduced, Power Charge and Cruel Attack does a lot of damage, even with the physical reduction. Now, to talk about a quick thing relating to the way I edit my boss fights, and I also did think that something had to change, I just had no idea how. So from now on, I'm only going to show key moments from the fight in these videos. But if you'd like, you can click the link in the top right to see a full, uncut, no commentary video of the entire fight. If in the future you'd like me to have my live commentary during these videos where I discuss what I'm thinking at the moment in terms of strategy, comment that down below. But in terms of my basic strategy for this fight, I always have Mitsuo have debuff defense, charge and attack with Kanji, heal with Yukiko if necessary, and Yosuke is constantly attacking. To my surprise, during the fight, I was able to cancel Mitsuo building a shell and get an all-out attack, but later he spammed it and entered the second phase of his shell anyway. With my strategy, I still managed to survive and completed Void Quest.
No! Kanji's scared!
Here go. Should we show him who's boss? All right.
After one of the biggest story sections in the game, I reached the secret laboratory, which, in my opinion, only has one major roadblock in the form of the mini-boss, which really comes down to how do I get myself as tanky as possible to survive a power-charged Herculean strike while guarding, because my current armor isn't great even for Mitsuo's dungeon. So I researched and farmed for the correct materials to get better armor pieces for everyone, and then came back to the dungeon on another day to challenge the dominating machine, which does take a while with how often I'm blocking, but goes down without any deaths, and now I'm clear to continue the dungeon.
Lay down and die already! Here go! Persona! That was easy.
And I know everyone says this, but the puzzle with the cards in Naoto's dungeon is really annoying after your first playthrough of the game. After that, there's not any obstacles between me and battling Shadow Naoto. And by the time I get there, I'm almost at the level cap, so after a few quick fights, I leave and prepare some gear before I come back to the dungeon and begin the Shadow Naoto fight. Once again, if you'd like to see the full fight with no commentary, uncut, click the link in the top right to see that now. Admittedly, I didn't actually check the wiki for this fight, because I didn't think it was going to be necessary. But as I learnt upon heading in, Shadow Naoto resists fire, which half of my party uses. Plus, the moveset I'm up against is way worse than I remembered. Mainly Galgaman Eyes and Mute Ray, causing me trouble I even used 2 items in this battle. An ointment from Yukiko to heal herself after Mute Ray, and using a bead by Protagonist on Yukiko after she was hit by Galgulum Eyes, which I'm glad she didn't use as often, or I'd be in trouble of having a teammate die. My only non-fire move on Protagonist was Mazio Down, which, while it deals more damage, it drains my SP like crazy. Yosuke and Kanji were definitely the MVPs for this fight, and they did most of the damage, but I managed to defeat the dungeon nonetheless.
Persona! Hold on! Let's do this! Persona!
Go forth!
So far, I'm really surprised how few deaths I've had. Losing Chie at the start was pretty devastating for Kanji's dungeon, but I've ran into no issues other than that. I'm not sure if it's just my experience of having played the game multiple times before, which gives me good insights such as avoiding the rocks in Kanji's dungeon and these guys in the laboratory, because they have high chance of insta-killing any party member with just a normal move. So I know how to use Vanish Balls to get away from those enemies until I'm strong enough to survive a worst case scenario, but still, I partly suspected that even in my best efforts, someone would still die. But yet again, I'm way too cautious, and grinding takes forever because of it, but maybe that's also why. Anyway, now that Shadow Naoto has fallen, I'd like to start the next dungeon, but unfortunately I have to cut the video short. 1, because I didn't have enough time to get as much as I would have liked, and 2, I'd like to know if people want commentary during the videos where I have a full uncut boss fight. What I mean by that is that I'll just be talking like, oh, should I use this move, or what are the possibility that this could happen and I should use this move instead? This is a good time to heal, so it's not like you're not really missing out on anything, it's just hearing my thoughts in the moment at the boss fight, and it's also to prove that I haven't died in the boss fight, which is pretty important, and that's why I originally had the boss fight sped up, which, even though it was a bit fast and you couldn't see anything, you could still see if someone had died, so that was my main intention, being able to prove that I did this and I'm not just, you know, dying and then not showing it. The reason I bring this up now and not just do the next boss fight anyways, because we've got some really important fights coming up. For example, the next boss is the final boss of Persona 4 if you play it as quickly as possible, and what I mean by that is getting the bad ending. Because technically that makes it the last boss and I could just get the bad ending and say I did it, but I do have Mary's social link maxed, which means I can go all the way to the true ending, which I hope I can do. And now that I have some time to talk about it, I'd really like to talk about the idea of a Persona 5 Nuzlocke, because, in my opinion, I don't think I'm good enough for that. Persona 5 has way more mechanics than Persona 4, and I honestly think it would be too much for me to keep up with at the moment. But in the future, I'd like to attempt one. The reason I chose Persona 4 for this challenge was, 1, there's so many different runs of Persona 5. There is an unbelievable amount of Persona 5 challenge runs on the internet. Plus, with Persona 4, I've completely 100%ed it and done multiple run-throughs, so I knew a lot more of what I was doing. But regardless, I'd like to at least make an attempt to get a Persona 5 Nuzlocke going after Persona 4. If you'd like to see that, please let me know, because I'm okay to do that. It'll be hard, but it does sound pretty fun. And like a nice challenge. But regardless, I want to hear your guys' input on this, because there is already enough Persona 5 challenge runs, so I'm not sure if people still want to see them. So if you'd like to, let me know. Well, thank you for watching. If you made it this far, thanks for sticking around, I really appreciate it. The support for the series has been amazing, better than anything I could have expected, so I really appreciate it. On that note, see you next time.
Come on, make up the remote, don't you know you're ready on a junk for them.